So as you all know, there are these nebulous and unnamed groups spreading misinformation and disinformation about social media influencer and YouTuber MorgueOfficial, aka Corey Reben of North Hollywood, the son of retired Orange County cop Oliver Didio. Since Neogenian MorgueOfficial is too gutless, toxic, manipulative, and exploitative to actually name names regarding these shady groups, allow me to do it for him. I, Rowan James Bjarnason, am a member of one of these groups. One group, the Ancient Order of the Pythagorean Illuminati and their revolutionary literary Armageddon conspiracy cell, have been plagiarized, smeared, defamed, and their books shamelessly cancelled by the very plagiarist of their work, Corey Reben. I am a member of Online Illuminism, their allies in revolution, and the campaign to bring the YouTuber MorgueOfficial to justice. I was one of the people Reben illegally and maliciously swatted when I sided with Reason and Truth after the incendiary book Without the Mob There Is No Circus by David Sinclair came out, exposing Reben as the absolute cunt he provably is. However, we most certainly are not spreading misinformation and disinformation about MorgueOfficial, Corey Reben, the pathological narcissist and psychopathic Neogenian cult leader, flanked by his four abhorrent and gimpish moderators, Susan Mitchell, Philip Shope, Alexandria Torgensen, and Mark Vanderpool, who are just as guilty as he is. We are mere whistleblowers stating facts and telling the unadulterated truth regarding this monster, which is exactly why he refuses to grow a pair and actually directly refer to us and publicly counter our factual claims. If he did, he and his cult would be finished. One of my projects is this YouTube playlist exposing MorgueOfficial's psychotic and violent side, his true nature, that he now masks behind this queer Jesus wokester persona. Not because he's ashamed of this filth, but because his new form grants him more narcissistic supply and money. That's it. Reben is proud of his Terrors of Men content, and not once has he ever disowned it. So here's another one from this degenerate scumbag. Pity is a sickness, a virus bred from suffering. It goes. Harsh words. I think my readers have the intelligence to see the truth here. If one looks closely, you will see that it is not I who is the villain, but the one who spreads pain unto others. The German word for pity is Mitleid, which literally means suffering with. There is nothing gained by feeling pity, no direct or indirect positive byproduct. It can only result in a loss of will, which can develop into a negative state like depression. Sometimes it may be advantageous to express pity, but feeling it should always be avoided. This society prizes the emotion. It is the highest virtue of the weak and the stupid. You see, the wretched creature will bemoan and lament his misfortune to those around him in an attempt to evoke pain from them. This is his only power, the power to make his friends suffer. Ah, he thinks, I am important enough to cause another pain, and in this realization he feels pleasure. This is the true sadist, he that gains pleasure from inflicting pain. I think we all have known somebody like this, a whimpering creature crying at all hours of the day and night about their miserable situation. They will break their own bones for your attention. I have seen it, the tantrums, the screaming, even the false suicide attempts. I am not saying to withhold help from a friend if he or she genuinely needs it. This is a completely different situation. Please do not confuse the two. I am speaking of the individual who does nothing to improve their life. I had an acquaintance who will remain nameless. She was unhappy with her life and would cry to me night after night, yet she did nothing to improve her situation. She had time and opportunity to change her life, she was simply lazy. It became apparent that this person had no intention of improving her situation and was simply seeking my pity to stir emotion. I saw the negative effects it had in my life, and I severed ties with her. I will help the willing and the persistent, but I have no tolerance for the weak. Do not let them move you. Do not let them tear you down. Leave them to die in the world they have created. Morbidly yours, Morg. It's unreal how every word this nutjob speaks is total projection of his own pathologies onto others and the world around him. For over a decade, MorgueOfficial has cultivated a scene where nothing but freakish Simpson gimps coalesce around him to praise him, suffer with him, mother him, worship him, coddle him as a victim of religion and nefarious groups out to get him, and for that, suffer pain through their cult god's unfortunate circumstances. It is Corey Reben who thinks, I am important enough to cause another pain through my victimhood and suffering. Let me wear a dress and cry on camera and weep over my doped out DMT experiences and whinge about my made up religious trauma syndrome and snivel over being a target of misinformation and disinformation, for I am pitiable and utterly weak and effeminate. Reben is the true sadist who gains pleasure from inflicting pain. He gets off on making onlookers of his freakish stunts vomit and gag. It's really quite funny, this malignant projector of psychological dysfunction. Reben's entire being revolves around pity, the self-pity he constantly inflicts on himself. It's a narcissist's MO to play the victim so he can manipulate those around him. In Reben's case, his cowardly moderators and mindless cult slaves. It's self-pity that contributes to the self-aggrandizement and inflated sense of self-worth of the narcissist, so they can present themselves as a hero, a savior, an enlightened guru, an ascended master, a world shaper, or whatever else. Harrogate family law out of the UK states that, at the end of the day, narcissists are very arrogant. They have a grandiose sense of self and very often can't look beyond themselves. But this form of self-esteem is not authentic. So feeling self-pity and playing the victim acts as a substitute for the lack of authentic self-worth. Essentially, being the victim makes them the mistreated and misunderstood hero in a story that's all about them. It plays on the narrative that their needs are the most important because they've previously not been met or they've been wronged somehow in the past. In a way, they believe their own role because it contributes to their belief that they deserve to be given the most attention and respect. Reben stole from, plagiarized, defiled, and violated the great work of Mike Hockney and Dr. Thomas Stark, to name but a couple, and would have his idiotic followers believe that he is the victim of bigoted hate and that he was just a helpless, innocent, and honest player, as expressed in the smear-fueled, self-pitying, and self-victimizing garbage that MorgueOfficial wrote in his laughable message and statement, which he didn't even have the guts to share on his own social media pages or to make public outside of the extremist core of his own cult. Talk about transparency. So, in response to this traitor and his thievery, Sinclair's Without the Mob came out, which was a nuclear bomb that caused old Morgy Porgy an extreme amount of narcissistic humiliation. Sam Vaknin gives some points to ponder on this. Narcissists are hypervigilant, constantly on the alert against slights, insults, and humiliation, real and imagined. Narcissists are paranoid and besieged by ideas of reference. Narcissists defend against narcissistic injury by denying, devaluing its source, resorting to fantasy, and finally, to wallowing in self-pity and self-loathing. The self-pitying and self-loathing this cerebral narcissist and plagiarist felt from this book must have been off the scale. Sinclair absolutely demolished Reben's moronic proof of the impossibility of the impossible in order to prove the principle of sufficient reason and refute non-existence. Concepts, all of which Reben provably knows nothing about. The cerebral narcissist puked his guts out. But that's what happens when you're an incompetent, ill-educated fool with zero qualifications. Vaknin said, narcissists react to humiliation as normal people do, only more so. The narcissist feels regularly and strongly humiliated by things which, by any standard, do not amount to slights or insults. It would be safe to say that the emotional life of the narcissist is tinted with ubiquitous and recurrent and deeply felt humiliation. Sinclair's book was no mere slight or insult. It was a nuclear evisceration of a predator, conman, liar, grifter, traitor, manipulator, and thief, and of his glove puppet moderators, a number of whom overcame the humiliation and nobly sided with reason and the truth. Reben, incapable of any noble act, merely turned the self-pity knob up to 11, with his remaining cowardly mods left to pump his already overinflated tires. Fucking gimps. Vaknin continues. Any event, thought, circumstance, utterance, inaction, or action which negate or can be construed to negate the uniqueness of the grandiose superiority of the narcissist humiliate him. Anonymous life in a big city, involuntary inclusion in a group of peers, any sign of remonstrance, disapproval, disagreement, or criticism reduce him to a state of sulking petulance and agitation. The narcissist interprets everything as addressed to his person rather than to his actions. In extreme cases, this amounts to an ad hominem referential delusion. The list of things, imagined or real, which might slight the narcissist is dizzying indeed. When contradicted, when deprived of special treatment, when subjected to an attitude or a comment which he judges to contravene his grandiose, superior self-image or his sense of entitlement, he is beside himself with indignant rage. It's as though the narcissist has a need to be reduced, humbled, minimized, and otherwise trampled upon. It is the eternal quest for punishment that is thus satisfied. The narcissist is on a never-ending trial, which itself constitutes his punishment. The initial reaction of the narcissist to a perceived humiliation is a conscious rejection of the humiliating input. The narcissist tries to ignore it, talk it out of existence, or belittle its importance, for instance, by devaluing its sources. If this crude mechanism of cognitive dissonance fails, the narcissist resorts to denial and repression of the humiliating material. He forgets all about it, and when reminded of it, denies it. But these are usually merely stopgap measures. The disturbing data are bound to impinge on the narcissist's tormented consciousness. Once aware of their reemergence, the narcissist uses fantasy to counteract and counterbalance it. He imagines all the horrible things that he would do to the sources of his frustration. MorgueOfficial acted on the horrible things he wanted to do to the sources of his frustration. He illegally swatted me to try to have me executed by cop for being a supposed deadly threat to himself, Hyperians, woke liberals, and the President of the United States of America. He turned the authors and discoverers of the system he was shamelessly plagiarizing into a sinister group of Nazi terrorist radicalizers and murderous transphobes, which makes you wonder why he was so keen to use their system until the day they rightly denounced him. Corey Reben is an extremely sick and disturbed individual. There are over 100 hours of online video footage meticulously detailing this, and there will be 100 more to come. There are over 1 million words exposing this dangerous criminal, and there will be 1 million more to come. And when we reach these quotas, we will double them and keep on coming. Reben is finished. He was finished on Bastille Day 2022. Now the Hyperion zombie must be put down for good, and it will be. Never harm yourself or others.